Welcome back to True Print for Life. I'm your host, Christina Vera. Welcome back. Today I am shooting solo. Maylin is at an amazing conference training that I can't wait to hear all about when she returns. But I thought it was a great opportunity. I know the last time I recorded by myself, we talked a little bit about what was coming up. And since then, I have been talking in previous episodes about the power of, just self-awareness. And at the time, I was really struggling with the idea of this next big birthday I had coming up. And so I did finally turn 40, God willing, and really, really thankful, and had the opportunity to turn 40 with my family, and not just my immediate household family, but my entire family of my sisters, my mom, my brother was there, and my favorite tia and my favorite cousin. And all of us flew out to Puerto Rico. And if you didn't know, that is where my family is from. And it was such a special, powerful experience to have gone to Puerto Rico with my family. It was about, I believe, 23 of us, including all the kids. And so being able to welcome this next generation of my life, or this next decade of my life, on our island with my family, it was a powerful experience. And I just remember waking up the morning of and, just being in awe of being with all the people that I really love. My best friend was there. Obviously, Maylin was there with Jaira. And it was such a special time, and really allowed me the opportunity to really reflect on just the growth, and really, what the next chapters look like. And as I took the day, that first half of the day, my husband scheduled a really nice spa package for me, which was really unexpected. He said he scheduled something, or he had planned something. And so I wasn't really sure what that something was, but ultimately it was a spa day, which was really exciting because it did allow me the opportunity just to pause and reflect, and obviously really think about just the gratitude that I felt for, just the journey. And I think oftentimes, we constantly, and I don't know if everybody does this, but I feel like for the longest, I kept thinking about the destination of my life, how much money I wanted to make and where I wanted to be, and ultimately what I wanted to accomplish by a certain time frame. And really what I'm learning and starting to fully learn, because in some days I feel like I'm still navigating this, but it's really about the journey. It's about the journey of all the experiences, good or bad. They are a part of your personal journey and your personal testimony. And so really taking the time to learn about, everything, just from the beginning of my career to where I'm at right now. So much to be thankful for. But then also there was a lot of hard times, and I was reflecting on that. Things have happened, and just being able to go through those experiences and remind myself, and for those listening, reminding you, whatever you're going through or have gone through, you got on the other side of that, or you will get on the other side of that. And I feel like that was something that really resonated with me on that birthday trip. Was just it was never even a thought at the time that I would be able to experience something so beautiful with my family, going to visit the part of the island that my mother was from, all the memories that my aunt was able to share in that moment about her favorite parts of the island and the beaches and the food and the culture, and seeing my kids, who it was the first time for them also visiting Puerto Rico, and just seeing, just how much they loved it. And, so really thinking about how important family is to me. And I think that, in everything that I do, or anything that I've been a part of, a lot of special things that I truly am grateful and I'm always humbled to be a part of, being like with my kids and being a part of my family, even though there's times where it's like they get on my nerves or it's just really like overwhelming, or times where I feel like, okay, it's too much, I just need to take a break. I am just so incredibly grateful that they are mine and I am theirs. And it was just in that moment where I just was really quickly, it solidified a lot of the decisions I've been making here recently about career things and just what's to come, and recognizing that I have to continue to remind myself around what are my non-negotiables? What are things that I have identified from my life that are things that I am not willing to compromise on? And, for me, it's really about making sure that I can always be available when needed for one of my kids or my siblings or my mother, just making sure that regardless of what I'm doing, that I have the opportunity or the freedom to be there for them. And so we often talk about success, and I've always told people like we all define that very differently. And I think when I was younger, I defined that around a certain amount of money in my bank account. Not that it's still not important to me to be financially secure. I'm not saying that, but I think for me now, in this season of my life, really thinking about what I define as success is the ability to, step in for my family when they need me, without feeling like I have to choose between them and being, financially, like not feeling like I have to choose between my family and the work of any sort. And so, and that hasn't always been the case. There have been plenty of school trips that I've missed. There have been plenty of birthday parties that, I wasn't able to be there for the full thing, or I was there, but mentally I wasn't there. I'm still like trying to figure it out via email. I mean, I was that person that I remember being on a cruise ship in the middle of the ocean. I spent so much money on Wi-Fi, and it was just because I was in the middle at that time. If you don't know, I've had my real estate license for years. I no longer sell real estate, but at the time, I was in the middle of a cruise family vacation trying to tie up a deal. And it was really crazy because my family's looking at me. They're like, we were supposed to be in dinner like 15 minutes ago. But, obviously, if you've ever been in real estate, everything is time sensitive. And so I sent them without me. I added more money to the Wi-Fi package, and I'm literally trying to find a corner that I can get a strong enough signal to negotiate this deal. And, and that's what needed to be done at that time. So certainly I'm not saying that there isn't a season that a grind is necessary. I feel like that was what I needed to do in that moment and at that time. But recognizing that I don't want to constantly be at that pace any longer. Like, I want to figure out how I can be more strategic and intentional with the tools and just everything that, God willing, I've been able to build. And certainly recognizing that being with them, being with my kids, because they're getting older, especially, feeling like, time is flying by. That's one thing that we never get back. We can always make more money. We can always, certainly buy more things, but it's the time, it's the memories that you have, the opportunity that I can just call my mom. And I know for some people, they can't do that anymore. And God willing, I know everybody has to experience certain things at different times, but just never wanting to take people an opportunity to spend time with those people for granted. And I think that's really where I'm at in my season of really trying to be more mindful, more aligned. What I say is priority, like, do my actions really align with what I'm saying is a priority? So wanting to take more time for like self-checks and saying like, okay, I'm saying these 3 to 4 things are top priority for me. Really, any decision I make should be weighted next to those priority areas. Now, I'm not saying there won't be like one-off things where I have to make a decision or go to a meeting that wasn't initially on my calendar. Those things happen, but I'm talking about just like as an overall rule of thumb, really being clear about what you say are priorities and what you say are non-negotiables, and using that as the driving force for any and most decisions that you make. And I think that's really what I'm trying to be much more intentional about. Really, if I'm at work, let me be at work. Let me give it a solid 8 to 10 hours, depending on what I'm doing that particular day. Trying to be all in that moment, in that space. So then that way, when I'm home, or if I'm with my mom, I'm with my mom. And I think sometimes that works out perfectly, sometimes it doesn't. I've had seasons where, I've had both, but just wanting to be more intentional of making those things a priority and creating habits and disciplines to ensure that I'm able to carry that out. And so in navigating the multiple roles that I am and have the privilege to be a part of as an entrepreneur, an elected official, a mom. I mean, there's just so many different roles that I play on a daily basis that for me, it's becoming more and more in tune with where I find to have my most enjoyment. And then if I'm finding myself like not having enjoyment, what do I need to change up? Because I'm no longer I'm okay with being uncomfortable if there's growth involved or if there's a lesson learned. Like Rick Ross, and as such a random person to quote, but I feel like I can learn from anybody. At least I try to. That's always kind of like my initial mindset is like, okay, I might not really but maybe there's a lesson here. And so Rick Ross was doing an interview, and he said something to the effect, and I'm not going to quote him exactly, but this is like me paraphrasing. But he basically said that an L is not an L as long as you learn from it. And what he was saying was a loss is not really a loss because you actually gained something. You learned what not to do. And so I feel like, oftentimes we all go through things. And how often do we really pause to take the time, especially stuff that's happened that is really bad or really hard? Do we take the time? Have I taken the time to sit with that particular situation and say, okay, this sucked. I didn't appreciate this, or I never foresaw this coming. This was very, painful, or this cost me a lot of money. Do we take the time to really reflect on what could I have done differently? What will I do differently moving forward? Because it's so easy to get stuck in the space of just feeling like, oh, I failed, or feeling like, oh, this didn't work out, or, this happened for a reason. The reason was because you were supposed to learn something. And I feel like mistakes are inevitable. Like you make a mistake, that's a part of life. But making the same mistake multiple times, that's a choice. And I think that, wanting to take more time to really process things that are happening, I feel like I've gotten a little bit better with that over the years, but certainly recognizing that there's more work I want to do in that space. So before I react, before I respond, before I'm on to the next thing, let me take a couple, even if it's just a day or two, let me take a little more time to really reflect on why did I feel a certain type of way, or what happened, what could have been done differently. Maybe my interpretation was altered, or maybe I was right. And maybe, really the opportunity there is for me to, to vocalize more of what could have been handled differently. So I think for me, that's something that I want to be a lot more intentional about in this kind of next chapter. And I wanted to share that because I think oftentimes, we can easily get so stuck in, what has happened to us, recognizing that, yes, things happen and hard things happen. And I have gone through so many hard things for, different seasons. I won't say every single day of my life is hard because that would not be true. But I've gone through really hard seasons. But, we are bigger than what we've gone through. Like these situations are situations that we made it through. It may have taken some time. We may still be dealing with the effects of it. We may still be in the storm of it. But holding on to the hope and the understanding that we will come out on the other side, and regardless of the outcome, it's still an opportunity to learn. It's still an opportunity to grow. It's still an opportunity to, rise up and, and continue to move forward. We can't become stagnant in a situation or stagnant, around others' kind of thought process about you or us. At the end of the day, as long as you know who you are, you know what your non-negotiables are, and that's how you are kind of setting up your day-to-day or your week to week, to me, is just a much more intentional way to set up not just a habit, not just, something on your goal sheet, but a lifestyle. And I think that's where I'm at. I'm like, okay, I'm talking about a lifestyle. And I'm saying this to you all, but I'm also thinking this out loud. I don't think I've ever looked at certain elements of my life in that way. I don't want to just do something to check a box. I want to do something because this is truly what I believe in, or truly how I want to live my life. And I feel like that's just where I am right now. So in trying to navigate the multiple roles, and then also wanting to start kind of reorganizing. So, companies reorganize all the time. And I think that we need to take this pause and the time to reflect on, okay, what within my life do I need to start reorganizing? Have I had enough of this? Do I have too much of that? Do I not have enough of this? And being able to set up the time to really pour into ourselves in that way, I believe is critically important. I have not always been a master of that, and that's something that I am trying to be much more mindful of. But certainly recognizing that when I don't pause to take a self-check inventory, that's when I tend to get like a lot of flare-ups in my body. That's when I start to feel like I don't really get sleep at night. Like there are periods of my life and this still happens present day, so I'm not speaking like in past tense. There will be periods where my mind just won't shut off and I will only get 3 and 4 hours of sleep. I'll kind of toss around. I'll eventually wake up and, start strolling on my phone, which is terrible. And I found that when I'm really anxious about something or something happened and I felt like, I didn't handle it the way that I wish I would have handled it, or I'm still processing, I should have said this or I should have done that. Like it takes over and in some ways even kind of consumes my headspace, and then it ultimately affects my physical body. And I'm trying to find more opportunities to say, okay, it's not healthy and it's not safe for these feelings just to be trapped in my mind. So what do I need to do to be able to decompress? What do I need to do, to be able to, essentially get it out of my system, deal with it, because I need to sleep. Like sleep is so critically important. And I think there was always like this notion of like, oh, you'll sleep when you're dead or you'll sleep when you're older. And, right now it's about get it, grind, do this, I don't really know who came up with that. I don't know if I fully agree, because there is a difference between when you get that 2-3 hours of sleep versus like you got at least a good 7, like good sleep. I'm talking about uninterrupted. You weren't tossing and turning. Like physically your body feels different, but mentally, spiritually, there's a huge shift when I've slept only 3 hours versus me actually getting a quality night's rest. And I'm finding that rest is so critically important. Being intentional about self-care. I finally got into a rhythm of like the vitamins, the extra waters, the probiotics. Now my biggest setback is still like sugar. I'm terrible when it comes to that. Like I love desserts. I love bread. I love ice cream. Dark chocolate is my absolute favorite. So I'm trying to find ways to like cut back on that a little more, because I know that is actually not the best thing for your body. But overall, trying to be much more intentional about just health and sleep and water and supplements, because I think ultimately, right, like we can continue to build out these big dreams and we can continue to have like, these massive vision boards. But if we are not actually healthy to carry it out, these will all just remain wishes. I don't, it doesn't make sense to me that we continue to neglect ourselves and, in the thought that we're doing all this to achieve something. And then we get to that period of our lives and then we're not even able to enjoy it or be really fully like deliver on the level that you could have delivered if we had spent more time like putting gas in our own tank. And so I think that's something that I'm definitely trying to lean more into my own personal health and those around me, just trying to be more mindful of like how we can create community around that. Because I know sometimes having accountability is helpful. And so finding folks that you can align yourself with in that way, where maybe even if you're not in the same industries, or it doesn't have to be that, it just has to be individuals that are mindful and aware of like, what is it that you're trying to do? And then you can evaluate what they're trying to do. And is there community in that? Is there a way that you all can align, your check-ins, or like, hey, let's go on a walk together, or hey, like, let's meal prep together. Not that I meal prep. I'm not saying that. I'm not that organized. I would love to be that organized. But I'm just saying, like, if you have somebody that is that organized, like, talk to them, figure out how you all can start like planning and prepping together, because I do feel like being able to find community and find friendships, at different seasons of your life is so critically important. I don't believe we were designed to be by ourselves. Now, with that being said, I also don't believe you should be like a water fountain and just accessible to every and anybody. Like, you certainly want to be mindful of, where you are making deposits, right? Like, where are you spending your time? Where are you giving your energy? Where are you giving your treasure? Because ultimately, like, in a healthy relationship, that should be reciprocated. And so certainly, wanting to be mindful of the goals that I have set for myself, that I know I'm going to need accountability. I'm opening up myself a little bit more to meet new people. I think that has always not been as much of a priority to me for a personal setting. Like, professionally, I love networking. I love being able to meet people and figure out how we can, align work. I love to serve people, as you know, running a nonprofit organization, anything I can give to help girls and women, like that. That is my why. That was what God designed me to do. But in terms of like my personal space, that has not always been something that I've always been very open to. And so wanting to be like more open to that, now trying to find more people that are also kind of in this, like, not necessarily the startup journey, but kind of like this next wave of growth journey. And so wanting to be an accountability person for them, but also feeling like I need that community of people as well. And so that's something I'm open to and trying to be more mindful of, and certainly wanted to just be able to share that, because I think that we should constantly be taking time to reflect on our growth, reflect on legacy building, whatever that may mean to you. And then ultimately, what is the next chapter, and I'm not too big on like New Year's resolutions. I think there could be goals that you set for yourself, but I think there's always opportunity. So whether that's, January 1st, or is that, April 1st, like whatever that is, you have to just be willing to say, okay, I don't like how things are going, or maybe you do like how things are going. Because like I said, it's not always a hard time, but just taking the opportunity to reflect and see like, what's going well, what could be better, what do I need to do to improve certain situations, right? It can't always fall on your partner or your kids or your employer. You can only control you. And so thinking about what does Christina control, and how can I continue to evolve to be a better person, to be a better mom, to be a better partner, leader, business person. So those are things that I've been thinking a lot more about, and really excited for this year. And I'm trying not to get too ahead of myself. I was talking to one of my mentors, and I told her I kept getting this like fixation on like a decade, like this next decade of my life. And she quickly reminded me that you don't need to worry about the whole decade. Like, worry about what's happening now. And I really appreciated that she highlighted that, because I think for so many years, I always put so much pressure and emphasis and feeling like I had to have everything mapped out. I needed to know what my next 2, 3 years, my 5-year plan, my 10-year plan. And she just quickly reminded me that no, it will present itself. Stop. If it's for you, it will present itself. And I really needed to hear that, because I have always, like I said, that's just always been my mindset. And so realizing that I am now in a season where, although I'm, going to be intentional about doing the work, that doesn't mean I'm just going to like pause and do nothing and expect everything to fall out of the sky, but it's different. And I really appreciated her highlighting that for me, because I've always been that person of just like, go, go, go. And yeah, I don't have that in me. Like, I'm not trying to be, grinding. Like, it's just different. And I can't explain it. I don't feel like I'm doing a good job explaining it right now. But if you've ever been in that season, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That period of time where you just feel like, okay, this is go time, this is grind time, like whatever it takes. You're here, you're there, you're trying to figure it out, you're trying to maneuver. I was in that season for so long, and I'm coming up for air. I'm putting my mask on first, and I'm just really like, okay, how do I take everything that I've learned and been blessed to build, and how do I just continue to build on top of that? And, that is something that I don't need to have every single step planned out, just start one day at a time. But recognizing as I'm doing that one step at a time, doing those constant check-ins as to what are my non-negotiables, what are my priorities, recognizing that, if I'm saying that these are my guiding principles, then I need to ensure that my decisions match those guiding principles. And so just taking some time to reevaluate what those are, because what they were in my 20s, even in my 30s, I was just in my 30s a month ago. But even that is it's a little bit different now. Like, one or two of them will always be the same, and that's okay. But there are some that definitely are different now. And I don't know that I actually took the time to think about it in that way. And so that is something that I am navigating right now, and certainly would encourage you to also navigate and know that the journey is every day. I used to be so fixated on the destination, like I was saying earlier, and I'm starting to really understand that the destination is like, it's the icing on the cake. I'm starting to understand it's really about all the moments in between, good or bad, because there is bad, and I will never downplay that. But understanding that there is good, there is so much good, and even in the midst of the bad, we came out. God willing, we came out of it. And like I said earlier, as long as we're learning, it doesn't make it less hurtful or less of a lesson, but certainly I think that it's an opportunity to grow. So that has just been, kind of my reflection and kind of transition into this new season of turning 40. Really blessed to see 40. And certainly I'm looking forward to all the continued lessons and opportunities ahead. And if you are finding yourself, no matter what age you are, right? Because it's not about age. And that's also something that is such a myth that I would love to just do away with. Your journey is your journey. So whatever is supposed to be for you, I was just having this conversation with my sister the other day. If that is your track, that is your plan, that is what, God says is going to be yours, it's going to be yours. You got to put in the work, but that work is really based on faith, believing that that is something that you will have, that you will achieve, that you are striving towards. But don't limit yourself into thinking that it has to be tomorrow, or it has to be by the time you hit 30, 40, 50 years old. Like, everybody's journey is different. And if we are constantly comparing ourselves to, well, this person did it, but they were 30. This person did it, and they were 25. That was their journey. And so that everybody is different. So you can learn from them, right? Like, what did they do? How did they do it? What advice would they give? But understanding that, we can't continue to be in a space of comparing ourselves to other people. At the end of the day, the only person you should be comparing yourself is to you. Who were you last year? How you can improve from last quarter. Spending time, and that's why I think sometimes social media is a huge distraction, because we get so caught up in what other people are doing, what they're eating, how they're maneuvering. And we start to compare ourselves like, oh, I don't have a house, I don't have a spouse, I don't have a dog, I don't have this new handbag. And it's like, but do you even want a house? Do you even want, you know what I mean? Like, it's just so, we get so caught up in the comparisons of other people's lives that we have altered our own path so much trying to keep up with other people. And half the time, from what I'm understanding, the folks that we're watching, they're not even happy. They're not really even living their authentic lives. And so I would encourage you, and I'm encouraging myself, so I'm not telling you this as if I've mastered it, but live your own journey, be in the moment more. Spend the time you need to spend to really understand who you are. How do you want to show up? How do you want to be remembered? What impact do you want to leave on your family? What impact do you want to leave on your community? Because at the end of the day, that is what's priority, not what we see on social media, not what, we want other people to think about us. Like, authentically at your core, who are you? How do you want folks to remember you? And that's something that, God willing, I've always kind of had that in the back of my head, but sometimes it gets buried deep back, and I have to take the moment to pause and to push it back to the front. And at the end of the day, that to me is a guiding light. And so when things happen, especially hard things, it's easy for you and for me to even want to turn up in a kind of way, like, oh, wait, who are you talking to? You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, that's not the side of me that I want people to see. That's not even the side of me that I want to see. Because I know that young girl used to react that way because of stuff that she went through as a child. I used to feel like that was a mechanism I had to, to put out there to defend myself, because I didn't feel like I could do that much when I was a kid. And, now that I'm an adult, it's like I'm no longer her. I'm no longer fighting that old situation. And so recognizing that I can still make a point without having to get loud. I could still make a point without having to use any kind of, toxic or profound language. I think there's just ways that we can still make our impact, make our mark, make our point, but doing it in a way that we feel proud at the end of the day. And I think that's something that many of us need to spend the time, really reflecting on how we react, how we show up. And is it in a way, as I mentioned earlier, that really truly is authentic to how we want to show up. How we actually show up and how we intend or how we want to show up can sometimes be two different things. Ideally, we want them to be the same. Some days it works out like that. Some days it doesn't. But certainly the more we practice, the more we're intentional, the more we are creating that village to help hold us accountable, I do believe it's possible. And so if you find yourself in this growth journey right now where you are just trying to find you at the end of the day, maybe it's a new version of you, don't give up. Don't feel like it's too hard. Don't feel like you're not being seen. You see you at the end of the day. And that is the biggest power. Others will eventually catch up. Eventually they'll catch up. They'll know who you are. They'll see how dope you are. Really, the priority is that you see you. You know where you're headed. You know what your vision and what your plan is. And you don't give up on that. And I told that to somebody not too long ago. I said, right now, you got to bet on you. Yeah, you can easily go out and you can do these other things, but it sounded like to me, and what this person was describing to me, that they didn't have the confidence in themselves to be able to carry out what they were talking about. And I straight up said to them, I said, you have to be willing to bet on you. And sometimes that's easier said than done, especially if you are not creating habits and intention and discipline to really be able to carry it out in the way that you have in your mind and in your vision. So with that being said, it is a journey. The destination, like I said earlier, is, to me, what I'm starting to understand is the frosting on the cake. And so we are all in this journey together. Some days are harder than others, but if no one has told you, I'm going to tell you. I'm proud of you. I see you. I see the work that you're doing. Keep it up, even on the hard days where you want to give in, you want to start all over. Maybe you do need to start all over. There's nothing wrong with starting all over. I tell people all that all the time. Starting over is not a sign of failure or weakness. Continuing to do something that doesn't work, that's harmful, that's losing you more money, that's taking you further and further away from your vision and your plan, that to me is failure. So if you got to reset, you got to go get that job while you're still building your company. If you got to close the company because the company those things are okay. And at the end of the day, nobody's opinion of you should matter more than your opinion of yourself. And so, as I continue to say and will continue to say here at True Print for Life, we're on this journey together. And certainly it's not perfect. Not one person's journey is the same as someone else's, but it can be done. Keep doing you, keep shining your light, keep taking the time to stop, pause, reevaluate, reflect, pivot if you need to pivot, but really consistency, discipline. Those are the types of skills and things that I plan to lean in more on, and I hope you do the same. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening to me kind of reflect on my own journey, and the excitement and the gratitude for turning 40, and being able to do that alongside of amazing people that I love. And as we always like to say here at True Print for Life, remember, it's bigger than you.
Thank you so much for listening today. We're excited and we hope that you follow us on
Instagram, True Print for Life, YouTube channel, also True Print for Life. And make sure that you share, like, watch our videos. Make sure that you follow us on all streaming platforms.